Why do you think cancer today is so ubiquitous?
It's predominantly the diet and lifestyle. American diet and lifestyle is killing Americans, but we also export that diet and lifestyle to other countries.
Can we first just set out exactly what cancer is from the perspective of the out-of-control cell division, I think, which we're all aware of, but also crucially from the perspective of the dysfunctional energy production, which I think most people are unaware of?
Yes, the definition of cancer is cell division out of control, dysregulated cell growth. That's the issue that we're dealing with. The question is, how does that happen? The mitochondrion control the energy. And if that mitochondrion becomes dysfunctional or inefficient in some way, the cell begins to ferment, which is an ancient form of energy, and it's associated with dysregulated cell growth. So the connection between dysregulated cell growth and mitochondria is very, very clear to me and many others, but not to the majority of people working at the top oncology centers.
Why do you think cancer today is so ubiquitous?
Well, it's almost 1,700 people a day in the United States, which comes out to about 70 an hour. People dying. And in China, it's even greater. They have about 8,100 a day dying, a bigger population, of course. It's predominantly the diet and lifestyle. American diet and lifestyle is killing Americans, but we also export that diet and lifestyle to other countries. American diet enters your population. You have cancer, type 2 diabetes, dementia, all the different chronic diseases that we seem to find. But of course, the Aboriginal folks that have not adapted diet and lifestyle, American diet lifestyle, I mean, they rarely have cancer. Cancer is kind of unknown. They have infections and they have parasites and they have all kinds of other things, but they don't usually have type 2 diabetes or cancer. And that's been documented over and over again. So clearly, what does diet and lifestyle mean? Well, it means eating large amounts of highly processed carbohydrate foods, minimal exercise, a lot of stress in the environment, are considered Western diet lifestyle. So that's pretty much how mitochondria become damaged.
Your central thesis is that cancer is not a disease of the genes.
Yes. I mean, this has been shown by the nuclear mitochondrial transfer experiments. It's clear that when you take the nucleus of a tumor cell with all the so-called mutations and you put that in the cytoplasm of a normal cell, growth regulation is restored. So, and if you take the nucleus of a normal cell and put it in the cytoplasm of a tumor cell, the cells become growth dysregulated. So clearly it's in the cytoplasm. And when you look at what is in the cytoplasm that plays a role in the differentiated state or the growth dysregulated state, it's the mitochondria. So no one denies the mutations that you see in cancer cells. The problem is they're mostly irrelevant. They're downstream epiphenomenon of the damage to oxidative phosphorylation. So yes, when you have abnormal oxidative phosphorylation, you produce reactive oxygen species, which are carcinogenic and mutagenic. So the damage you see in the nucleus, the mutations and all these things that people are trying to target and look at and doing all that, it's a big waste of time for the most part. And obviously we're not making any major progress in reducing cancer because we're focusing on things that are not essential to the real problem. It's the theory under which you understand the disease to be. Is it a genetic disease according to the somatic mutation theory, or is it a mitochondrial metabolic disease according to the mitochondrial metabolic theory of cancer? And once you realize it's a mitochondrial metabolic problem, then you can logically restrict the fuels that are driving the dysregulated growth, and you'll start to see a huge drop in death rates and improved overall survival once people understand what the correct theory is, and that has not yet happened.
If I can go back to the origin of this as far as you're concerned, because I believe Sam Apple wrote a very interesting book called Ravenous about Dr. Otto Warburg, who casts a huge shadow over any conversation in relation to cancer because he even lent his name to the Warberg Effect. Can you talk to us about Dr. Otto Warburg and his significance in this discussion? Because his ideas are not new. Now, he's long since dead, but his ideas came to pass, about 100 years ago or so?
I had no clue, other than hearing his name, what he actually did, until we started doing our own research in the lab, looking at the growth, the dysregulated growth of brain cancer tumors in mice. And we noticed that if you restrict the caloric intake and lower the blood sugar and elevate the ketones, ketone bodies, we were getting really, really significant reductions in the growth of the tumors, the blood vessels, the tumor cells were dying. All the things that we call the hallmarks of cancer were beginning to change. I said, wow, isn't this remarkable? And then I started looking in the literature, and I said, wow, this guy out of Warburg had said this a long time ago. He said if oxidative phosphorylation, oxphos, the way the cells get most of their energy, is defective, they have to switch to a fermentation metabolism driven largely by glucose. So we were seeing, as you lowered blood sugar, we were seeing a significant drop and then and the rate of the growth of the tumors. And I said, let's do a deeper dive on this and start looking at what Warburg said. And as the more research I did, the more evidence that I collected supporting what Otto Warburg said. But then we started doing even deeper dives. And Warburg did not know that there is a second fuel that could drive the fermentation metabolism, and that's the amino acid glutamine, which is, he did not know about that. That's our big thing. We're now showing that glutamine, along with glucose, can both be fermented. That means generating energy without oxygen. So these are, and I know it might be hard for some folks to understand how cells get energy. It's either oxidative phosphorylation with oxygen, or it's substrate level phosphorylation, which is an ancient form of energy that cells would use, and that's called substrate level. It doesn't require oxygen, substrate level phosphorylation. So Warburg knew about the substrate level phosphorylation with glucose. He did not know the second big part of this whole process, which is the glutamine. And, he referred to it as aerobic fermentation. And it was, why are you continuing to ferment when you have oxygen present? And the cancer cells continue to ferment even though oxygen is present. And he did not coin the term Warberg Effect. That was done by Ephraim Racker at Cornell University, and now everybody became so confused about the Warburg, aerobic fermentation, because they were focusing on mutations, not looking at the underlying biochemical problem. So they seem to not understand that the cells ferment because the oxidative phosphorylation is defective. And they said, oh, but these cancer cells are sucking down oxygen just as readily as some of the normal cells. And we and others have shown that oxygen consumption in cancer cells is not linked to ATP, energy synthesis. It's linked to ROS production, reactive oxygen production, which is causing the mutations in the nucleus. Now, so this is something that people don't want to know about. They're very comfortable knowing that cancer is a genetic disease. You come along and explain the whole system to them and why they're looking at the wrong thing, and they don't like to hear it. They're locked into an ideological dogma. This is not something that people want to hear about.
Hey, if you like that video, check out this video here, which tells you how to get rid of that stubborn belly fat.